Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining. It's 3:30, so we'll go ahead and get started, and we'll continue to let other folks join us as we get going. My name is Rich Granger. I'm with DriveOhio. We'll do introductions in just a moment, but I'll start with just a little bit of housekeeping items for our webinar today. So we will be recording this webinar. We're actually already recording, and so everyone will receive a link to that recording within a week after today's event. And even if for folks who weren't able to join us live, we'll share it that way as well. If you have any questions at any time, you can submit them through the chat. We do have both video and audio enabled for all participants. We just ask that you stay muted unless you're in the process of asking a question. We can have you raise your hand or figure out other ways to facilitate questions throughout. We do welcome questions from everybody. At any point, we'll do our best to monitor the chat. So we will gladly answer questions as we go through today's discussion. So with that, I am going to get started with our presentation. So we'll start with some introductions. So like I said, I'm Rich Granger. I'm with DriveOhio. We're part of the Ohio Department of Transportation. In just a few moments, I'll explain what DriveOhio is all about. And my role is focused on workforce development. I'll turn it over to my co-presenter to introduce herself.
Thank you, Rich. My name is Brianna Agamesu, and I'm the Portable Innovation Lab Coordinator here at the PASS Foundation. I don't know if anyone's really heard of PASS before, but we're an educational nonprofit, an R&D site. So we have our own facility, and we run things such as professional development and different things with students and educators. So I'll talk a little bit more about PASS a little later on, but that's just a little teaser for who we are.
Super. Thank you, Bree. And just want to thank everybody again for joining us. As we get started here, I'm going to launch a few of these polls for the audience. You'll probably see some pop-up windows. You may see it in the chat. Depending on how you're logged in, you may see these poll questions in different ways. So as we get started, you're welcome to start answering these questions. And then at a certain point, we will pause to see what your answers were. But in order to keep the discussion moving, we will keep talking while the polls are out there. So you may see more than one of them. There's 4 questions total, and hopefully there's not any technical glitches with these polls. But if you have any issues, feel free to let us know through the chat if you're having any problems with those polls. But feel free to answer those as you get a chance. And with that, we're going to continue with our conversation. So let me get the right spot to do that. So here's today's agenda. We are going to be talking first about opportunities across Ohio related to automated vehicles and electric vehicles. So the theme that you may have noticed signing up for today's webinar was around delivery robots, and that's definitely part of what we're going to talk about. And in some ways, that's kind of the tip of the iceberg. We'll explain how there's all sorts of things happening with robotics and automated vehicles, and many of those are electric, and so we'll talk about the opportunities around all of that. Once we've shared that context, then we'll start jumping into educator resources. We'll talk about some things from both DriveOhio and the PASS Foundation that are designed and built for educators and are all free, and so we'll explain all of that. And then we'll shift into a deeper dive into our curriculum. We'll talk about delivery robots and these broader smart city activities, and we'll explain what all that means when we get there. So with that said, we're going to get started on our discussion. So to help kick us off, I have an intro video from our director, Dr. Jack Marchbanks, who's a big advocate for STEM. For any of you who joined us in our previous webinar, he talked about his personal journey as a STEM student. In this video, he's going to just share with us a little bit about how this all ties into the DriveOhio mission. So let's give this a listen.
On behalf of Governor Mike DeWine and the Ohio Department of Transportation, which could be called the Ohio Department of Mobility, we're very excited to partner with the Ohio STEM Learning Network. At DriveOhio, we define smart mobility to include automated and connected vehicles and infrastructure deployed on the ground and in the air. Our statewide projects solve community challenges across 5 smart pillars: safety, mobility, access, reliability, and talent. When we talk about talent, we're talking about you and your students, training the next generation of our workforce for jobs that don't quite exist to solve problems that haven't fully been defined. At DriveOhio and the Ohio Department of Mobility, we believe in the power of partnerships. We look forward to working with each of you during the upcoming school year, and we're excited to see how STEM drives Ohio into the future.
Right. I love that message, and we've got great support from our leadership, and that's very important to us. I'll take a quick glance at our polls. Not sure if all of those are showing up yet, but you can continue to try to fill those out as you can. I see some good responses on different types of career pathways that folks are interested in. I see we have at least one chat message that we've had some issues with some of the polls. So let's see how much troubleshooting I can do on that here for a second before we jump back into our presentation here. Let me see. The view I'm seeing says the polls are live, so if for some reason they're not working, I do apologize. And it is a new feature that we've been testing on, so I guess we'll just do our best with those and keep pressing on. Let's see now. So sometimes you may also be able to see the polls in the chat. So it's possible if they're not showing up in a pop-up window, you may be able to go back and find those and submit them. And if you can't, don't worry about it. But some of the questions we were asking, in case you care to put any of this into the chat directly, would be what grade bands of students you work with, K2, 3 to 5, 6 to 8, 9 to 12, and or career tech. So feel free to throw that kind of information in there if you're able to. Let's see, we asked about what types of career pathways your students are interested in, whether that's skilled trades or certain disciplines like engineering, business, marketing, law, policy. Those are a few of the choices. And what would you like to learn about during this webinar? We gave a few choices, but feel free to just throw some feedback in the chat if there's certain topics you'd like us to spend extra time on. And you can also form that as a question, of course. And then we saw a few people that were repeat registrants from both webinars, so we appreciate those of you that are back with us for a second one. With that, we're going to jump back into our presentation and we'll keep rolling. So let's talk about Ohio opportunities. We're going to start with automated vehicles, and then we'll move to electric vehicles. So let's start with those self-driving vehicles. Where are they? Are they here yet? Here's one. These are delivery robots. These already exist. They're out there on college campuses all across the country and around the world. This one's at Bowling Green up in Northwest Ohio from a company called Starship Technologies. And then a different company, I think it's called Cartkin, has been deployed at Ohio State University's campus in Columbus. Any of you from Central Ohio or any of you that have been to the OSU campus may have seen these scooting around the oval or just sitting at a crosswalk patiently waiting. So it's exciting to see this technology out there already. And it's creating new types of jobs related to food delivery and robot technicians and all sorts of different types of requirements to keep this little fleet of robots running. So a little later, when we talk about some of the hands-on STEM activities with robotics and coding, we'll come back to these as a real-world example that you can link to your conversations with students about delivery robots and technology. So there's a lot more happening in the world of automated vehicles. Here's a passenger example. So this automated shuttle was called the Smart Circuit through the Smart Columbus program. This was the first automated shuttle service in the state of Ohio. This ran for a couple of years as a pilot a little while ago. And we learned quite a bit, and we continue with automated shuttle pilots from time to time. I know there's one in Youngstown that's about to get started. So keep your eyes out if you're in the Youngstown area for an automated shuttle near you soon. A different type of automation, hauling luggage at an airport. So at CVG Airport, a company called ThorDrive has been testing this out for an automated shuttle cart that will move around the tarmac. So when you're talking about the world of logistics and movement of goods, here's one example of a way that automation can be used to improve efficiency and safety in those environments. Here's an automated vehicle we've been testing in Southeast Ohio with our friends at Ohio University in collaboration with University of Cincinnati and the Transportation Research Center. We'll talk about TRC a little bit more here. This was a multi-year project to look at how automated vehicles operate in rural environments. So when you've got large hills, you've got wildlife, you've got maybe some gaps in GPS or other coverage. How do these systems work? How do we make them as resilient as possible to support those different types of applications? Another example is trucking. So these are some platooning trucks that are following each other closely. This has been another collaboration with partners. In this case, Ease Logistics is a logistics company out of the Dublin and Marysville area in central Ohio. Through a collaboration process, we outfitted those trucks with some technology that enables them to follow a lot closer and behave almost like a convoy of trucks. So that's been interesting testing, again, in Southeast Ohio. And now adding in another company called Kratos, we've collaborated again with Ease, and this time also with the Indiana Department of Transportation, along with TRC once again, on a project along Interstate 70 for automated trucking to look at how those technologies operate in the flow of traffic along I-70. So if you're out along 70 between Columbus, Dayton, and Indianapolis, you may see these trucks. Maybe you've seen them already, but they will be testing over the next few years with that type of technology. So we started with small delivery robots. We've moved up to large trucks and everything in between. There's a lot of testing happening right now and a lot of opportunities. What do those opportunities look like for students? Well, one example would be at the Transportation Research Center. We have opportunities for testing with a lot of those types of vehicles. TRC is very active in a lot of these different projects I've been talking about. And what is TRC? It's the largest independent proving ground for automotive testing in North America. It's close to the Honda facility past Marysville in East Liberty, Ohio. And their test track is big enough that you could fit the entire Ohio State University main campus inside of that test track. So that gives you an idea how big this facility is. And this picture that you see here is a photo of their Smart Center that was opened a few years ago with support from DriveOhio and many others. This is used for testing of all these different types of automated vehicles. In the background there, maybe you can see all those traffic signals hanging up there. They can fine-tune that intersection to behave in a lot of different ways with different types of automated vehicles approaching that intersection. And that's one of many different types of tests that they do out there. And they're always hiring, especially for test drivers. So if you go to that website, trcpg.com, and check out their careers section, you can see different types of emerging job opportunities related to automated vehicles, whether it's testing, software, engineering, technicians, you name it. A lot of interesting opportunities out there, and also sometimes the potential for tours as well. So a great partner over the years, and they're a great place to check out. So that's a quick survey of the world of automated vehicles. Next, I'm going to provide a similar overview of electric vehicles before we start shifting our focus towards educator resources to support all this. And the reason we're talking about these technologies is just to emphasize there are a lot of jobs out there right now and coming soon that are affected by all these technologies. So regardless of the age group you're working with, we think there's a story you can tell about career opportunities, whether it's career exploration with our youngest learners to potentially high school internship opportunities and other collaborations. And I mentioned DriveOhio is an initiative of the Ohio Department of Transportation, but we work with partners all across the state and different employers. And so that's what we're about to talk about here. So I always like to sometimes throw in a little bit of history. And, if you think back over 100 years ago, we were just transitioning into the automotive age. And so as things went from carriages to what they sometimes call horseless carriages, things were also possibly going to go electric. You can see here the Columbus Buggy Company that used to build those buggies that were pulled by horses experimented with electric vehicles. And at that time, it didn't quite gain traction, but it's definitely a different conversation today. Here's what Honda shared at the CES show in Las Vegas just a few months ago. Their latest prototype of an electric vehicle, and they're releasing a few EVs yet this year with all sorts of different companies now selling electric vehicles. To support all that, we need batteries and we need manufacturing. So as one of many examples, Honda had a big announcement within the past few years about a battery manufacturing facility coming to Fayette County. And in just a moment, I'll show a map of where that's located over 2,000 jobs on the way very soon. So again, for any of you that are working with middle or high school students, these jobs are about to become available and will be over the next few years. So some very real opportunities related to electric vehicle and mobility right in our own backyard. And it's not just in Central Ohio and Southwest Ohio. We've got opportunities all around the state. Northeast Ohio, Youngstown has Ultium cells and other facilities up there in what they're calling the Voltage Valley. You've got different automotive OEMs in other northern parts of Ohio. So it really is a statewide opportunity around electric vehicles. Zooming in on what Honda's up to, here's a map that kind of shows between Dayton, Cincinnati, Columbus, and Chillicothe. That's almost equidistant for opportunities to be employed at this battery manufacturing facility. What do those opportunities look like? Operators, technicians, engineers, support functions. This is an excerpt from a briefing that was recently shared through DriveOhio and the Dayton Development Coalition in collaboration with Honda and LG Energy. If you want more information, the website at the bottom there, lgeshonda.com/careers. You can learn more about these jobs and opportunities and what the in-demand skills are. And there's a whole support structure being built around these job opportunities in terms of workforce development. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes. Another dimension of electric vehicles is all about charging, because you need the batteries, you also need the charging stations. Well, Ohio's at the lead on this. DriveOhio is taking the lead for the installation of fast charging stations all across the state through the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Program. This is federal funding that's being deployed across all 50 states to enable the installation of these fast charging stations. So right now, DriveOhio has So DriveOhio has installed the first in the country of these charging stations right here. This is the one on I-70. There's our director, Preeti Chattery, on the left there. As part of this ribbon cutting, you might recognize at least a few of the other folks in this picture. And this was from at a pilot station that now has electric charging. And there's what it looks like at night. And we are working on these all across the state. So we're starting along the interstates, then we're moving out into different communities. And so we are excited to see where this takes us with charging infrastructure. And we're looking at the jobs that go with this, skilled electricians and other skills needed to maintain these charging stations. So when you think about all this movement towards electrification, there are a lot of opportunities. And to make sure that all of our state's talent, from our current workers all the way down to our youngest learners, are aware of those opportunities and have the training and skill development they need to accomplish and go after those jobs. And so the state has built an auto and advanced mobility workforce strategy to support all that. It's led out of the Governor's Office of Workforce Transformation, led by the Lieutenant Governor, in close collaboration with the Ohio Manufacturers Association and all of the employers who are members of OMA that are part of this ecosystem. So there's a lot of new information being prepared and published in collaboration with the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce, Ohio Department of Higher Education, other state agencies. DriveOhio is part of this initiative and many others. And over the next few months and next several years, really, you're going to continue to see more published out of this. You would go to that website, workforce.ohio.gov, you could find the strategy that was published last June, but the work hasn't stopped. It's been nonstop, behind the scenes, mapping out of what is needed. And here's just one example of something that's already been published, a competency model that shows the skills that are needed for manufacturing and then for specific industry segments. So if you look at this pyramid for a minute, everything from manufacturing on down is shared across multiple industries. And that's the foundation of a skilled workforce, whether it's soft skills, communication, collaboration, and then some skills that are specific to manufacturing. That gets everybody in the door for these manufacturing job opportunities. And then as you get towards the top of the pyramid, you've got these industry specific skills that might be a credential, a course, maybe a whole degree or something like that. And they've mapped that out as well across different areas, electric vehicles and batteries, aerospace with things like air mobility that we talked about in our last webinar. And of course, even semiconductors, for anyone who's heard about the Intel announcement. There's all this work happening, and just know that there's a lot of resource behind this. We could have an entire webinar just on this subject. I just wanted to flag this for everyone's awareness and attention. And when you get the slides, you'll be able to click the link here to learn more about this competency model if you're interested. There's a lot of great detail in there, informed by a lot of different employers from across Ohio. So when we talk about job opportunities, we're talking about these different types of technologies. Here today, we've highlighted electric vehicles on the left and automated vehicles on the right. In the middle, advanced air mobility is a whole other segment that we're not focused on today. But as I mentioned, we had a previous webinar that talked about that, and you can access that through our website as well. When we talk about the jobs in these sectors, you've got all sorts of opportunities here. And this is, while this is a lot of information to take in, it's also just the tip of the iceberg. All these different career fields are affected by these types of mobility technologies, whether you're talking about the different engineering disciplines, when we talk about batteries and battery manufacturing, we can get into chemistry, material science, electronics, of course, mechanical systems, and lots of other disciplines related to those engineering sciences and engineering technology, technician positions around that. And through the middle, you see these other job opportunities that maybe you've heard of some of these, and maybe some of these are a little new. Whether it's a vehicle test driver up at TRC, someone installing some of this electric vehicle charging station equipment with some new credentials that have just recently been added into the tech cred system. I mean, along the bottom, you've got all these skilled trades that are just the foundation of everything that's happening. And many of you probably know about some of the shortages in those fields already. And with the advent of electrification, we need electrical skills more than ever. And we talk about the importance of digital skills, and that's still very important. But electrical know-how is an increasingly important skill as we electrify everything. So we're continuing to add to this framework, and we'll keep adding more resources through our career resources at DriveOhio, but just wanted to flag that information for you. So to make things a little more personal, we always like to include and highlight some of our interns and other early career employees who've worked with us over the years. This is Kenya, who worked with us for several years as an intern at DriveOhio. He's now a transportation planner back home in East Cleveland, and he's doing a lot of great things in the world of city and regional planning these days. I've got a quick couple of video clips where he shares his perspective on careers. I just thought I'd share these excerpts, and if you like this video, you can find the full video on our website. Let's give a listen.
When I first came to Ohio State, I was actually a civil engineer for the first 2.5, 3 years of my collegiate career. So I actually started out as a bridge inspector with the RTA, which is like Cleveland's version of COTA here in Columbus. I wanted to switch it up a little bit, do something like more innovative. So when I came to DriveOhio, I was like, this is the perfect opportunity. So what me and my supervisor, Rich Granger, do is we go around different schools around the state pre-COVID, and we would basically have workshops where we would bring our Autobots to them. It's pretty nice to do that, just to see kids and be interactive with them, because that's something that my education lacked, just to give those kids the opportunity to do something that I never had the opportunity to do, and that's pretty important to me.
So there you go, just a nice segue into some of our resources we're going to talk about, but I just love the stories that Kenya shared with us as part of that video. We've got a few more videos featuring him on our website, and in just a moment here, I'm going to talk about where you can find all that. So as I transition into the topic of educator resources, I'm going to take a quick glance at the chat, and let's see. I know we had a few issues with the polls, so sorry about that, but I don't see any questions at the moment. As we're going through all this, if you think of any questions or comments, feel free to throw those in the chat. And if for any reason chat isn't working, I hope it's working for everybody, but if for some reason it's not, there should be a raise hand function in Teams also. So you can use that at any time to get our attention. With that, let's jump into some of the good stuff here, the educator resources. Not that jobs aren't good too, but I'm sure this is why a lot of folks have tuned in today to learn how can this be applied in the daily work that you do, which is so important. So at DriveOhio, we have a variety of workforce development programs. We say from pre-K to PhD, all tied into this world of smart mobility, advanced mobility. For our K-12 learners, we focus on problem-based learning, even down to pre-K levels. For our career tech and higher ed students, we try to have capstone projects and other innovation challenges that really push them as they prepare for their first few internships and their first part of their career. And with industry credentials, we're always on the hunt for new credentials that need to be added into systems like tech cred and industry recognized credentials to make sure the latest upskilling opportunities are out there. So to make all this as accessible as possible, we've created an educator toolkit for K-12. It's available on our website. There's the QR code that'll get you there. It's drive.ohio.gov/toolkit. Everything is free. And this is a collection of some of the best practices and resources we've found in our work in this area over the past 5 years. We've got a mixture of free curriculum, professional development, like you're experiencing today on this webinar, recordings of previous webinars, e-learning, other professional development resources are on there and will continue to be added. Just like the curriculum, we're continuing to add to that curriculum. We'll spotlight a few of those pieces of curriculum here in just a couple minutes. And we also have a career connections area that's linked to the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce program of the same name. Just tools for career exploration. And in fact, just to give a little more detail on that career connections piece, here's an example. We've had a webinar about automated vehicle careers that we added to our website. You can find that if you weren't able to tune in live. We've got a recording of that talking with these fine folks from both TRC and Ease Logistics, two of the partner organizations I mentioned earlier. You can get a deeper dive into what a day in the life is like at those two employers and hear about these ladies' perspectives on important skills to have and the types of opportunities that are out there for students of all ages. And we're working to make that content also available through social media as well. We have other training resources you can explore through our Smart Mobility Training Academy with free e-learning. I know we're not as focused on drones today, but that's another great example of e-learning related to drones. It's all available through that Ohio LTAP section of the DriveOhio toolkit. And just to kind of layer in more detail on what we can do with career connections, I'll just spotlight the industry recognized credentials that are out there for high school students as a pathway to graduation. What you see on the right side here, on the left side are just the different career pathways through the Department of Education and Workforce website for industry recognized credentials. If you go to education.ohio.gov, you can explore all that more. On the right side, I just pulled out a few industry recognized credentials that could be applicable to the curriculum we're about to talk about here, whether it's CAD, training for, doing design work around maybe some innovation challenges for some of the city planning we'll be talking about here today, robotics education and competitions. There's at least a few credentials already on the list with more coming soon, especially around electric vehicles. So watch for updates soon on all that. And this is, again, a whole topic we could spend a lot of time on. Glad to come back and answer questions about industry recognized credentials or Ohio Tech Cred. I will emphasize that Ohio Tech Cred offers reimbursement back to schools for any educator who receives a credential that's on the Tech Cred list. So just, if you weren't already aware of that, keep that in mind for future professional development. If there's a credential you want to go get that's on the Tech Cred list to help support the education that you're doing, the work that you're doing, you can get reimbursed through Tech Cred. And by the way, any student who earns an industry recognized credential at a certain level, I think it's either 4 to 6 points, you start to kick in reimbursement back to the school as well. So just know that there's funding behind all of this, and that's an important piece of this puzzle. With all of that, I would like to turn it over to Bree now to talk about a little more about PAST Foundation and specifically Portable Innovation Labs. Bree, take it away.
Thank you, Rich. So like I said earlier, my name is Brianna Agamesu. I'm the Portable Innovation Labs coordinator here at the PAST Foundation. And before I get started, I did want to there was something in the chat a little bit earlier. Someone asking, stating that we have 2 new remote locations. And I just wanted to clarify and make sure I was answering the question properly. So we actually have now, in the works about to expand to Akron and Dayton hubs for the OSLN hubs. So if you're not directly here in Columbus, we do have, within the next couple of weeks, we'll have some of our labs actually out at the OSLN Akron hub and the OSLN Dayton hub. So that's exciting. So I'm pretty sure that's what the person in the chat was referring to. So thank you for actually bringing that up, because that's helpful for everyone else in here if you're not in the Columbus area. But also, if you are outside of Columbus and not close to Akron or Dayton, you are still more than able to borrow one of our labs. It's just a pickup drop-off system. So I know it's a little bit of a drive, but it's worth it, I'd like to say. Okay, we can go to the next slide. Okay, so I already gave you guys a little bit about past, but just another brief overview. We're broken down into 3 teams: our student experience team, professional learning experiences, and our research team. And they pretty much do what they sound like. Our student experience team really focuses on like our summer camps, our STEM days with students, our school activities that we do with students. We do our Maker Manias. We go out, we do like our COSI day with COSI. We're a part of that as well. We do so many different things and with so many different organizations and schools. And then our professional learning experience, that's really working on professional development with educators in different organizations. We don't just work with schools, we'll do other like nonprofits or any educational organization in general. And then with our research team is a good backbone. I always like to say that without research, we would not be where we are, anyone. But our research team, we do have an in-house research team who basically collects all the data that we need. They help during our summer camps, especially, we do things about like STEM identity, which is something really big to us, collecting information about how students are interacting with the activities and things that we're doing. So we can go to the next slide. And I'd also like to add that I know my job doesn't necessarily fit into any of those 3 categories fully. So I do a little bit of student experience. I do a little bit of the professional development side. So I'm kind of all over the place. I run around and interact. So I always like to say that I'm just kind of dangling between all of them. So yeah. So what is a portable innovation lab? So I feel like a few people might know. I think there might be some repeats from last week and just some people who just know about past and what we do. But a portable innovation lab, or a PIL, if you look at that middle picture, those are kind of what our PILs look like. They're these totes that come with supplies, curriculum, and the curriculum is standard aligned. So we give you everything for free. And the only contingency is you just have to return it. So it's on a borrowing system, kind of like a lending library. But we give you the curriculum, the supplies, and anything else that you might need. If you have any questions, we're there for support also. We don't just give it to you and say, figure it out. We're there. You'll talk to me. If you have questions, you can always schedule meetings with me. And certain things like our 3D printers, I actually go out to the school and help set that up, or wherever organization's using it, because sometimes we'll work with nonprofits, or we work at the Columbus Metropolitan Library as well. So wherever I'm needed, I'm kind of there. And so this definitely isn't you have to be an expert in a field to be able to use any of this stuff. You can use it regardless, and I'm there as a support to help you. We can go to the next slide. And this is just some pictures of some of the labs, like our drones, so our simulated flight, our autonomous delivery with our Spiros, our 3D printers, our fingerprinting that goes along with our fairy tale forensics and our crime scene forensics. The bottom picture depicts our science of fragrance toxicology lab that we do. And then the top right, that's our assistive technology lab. So we work with Neuromaker to talk to kids about assistive tech. And then in the bottom right, that's our Clean H2O. And that's just a filter that students had to make to try to filter out water, and the importance of water conservation. And these are just some more pictures of Spiros being used. And also the middle bottom picture is our microcontroller robotics. So that's something that's kind of exciting. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second, why that's there as well. So what makes PILs different? So I know a lot of educators are gonna be like, okay, well, I've used kits before. That's why we call ourselves labs, right? We're standing out, we're different from the typical just kit that you can get from anywhere. We come with the curriculum and the materials and the support. We don't want it to be something that you guys have to do on your own. We're actually there to help, and we want it to make a difference in your life and your students' life. We also follow the design cycle. So everything that we do is design cycle in mind. They're transdisciplinary. So I encourage all sorts of educators to use those labs. I don't want it just for science teachers. I want everyone to use it. I've had a few educators who are like, how can I use this? I'm like a Spanish teacher. And I'm like, we're going to find a way for you to use this. So if you have a question and you're like, I really want to use this, but I don't know how, that's also something I can do. Help you figure out how to use a lab that you really want to use with your students. And we're innovative. So yeah, we can go to the next slide. And so how can you use your PILs? You can use it in your classroom, and that's usually the typical environment, but you can also use it in after school programming, and you can use it in the summer. Like I said earlier, we also are working with the Columbus Metropolitan Library. So their staff is actually using it with students in after school programs, and they'll be using it in the summer. So you can use PILs in any sort of environment. And so these are just a few examples of the labs that we have. So right now we have about 25 labs, and we are actually growing to have about 40 by the end of July. We have about 7 in the works right now. That'll be out sooner than that, but the big 40 number, that'll be at the end of July. And if you guys have any questions while I'm going through these slides, or while I went through the slides, or anything like that, you can always just like put something in the chat or raise your hand. So.
Thank you, Bree. And in fact, I did see a couple questions pop up, maybe related to geography in the chat.
Let me. I can go ahead and answer those really quick. Yeah.
Sure.
Let's see. Thank you for putting the links in the chat. Is there a possibility that you have more? So we do not have a distribution site in Cleveland at the moment, but the closest would be Akron, which is about an hour away. I know that's still a little bit of a drive, but the labs can be used from 2 to 3 weeks. So if you want to keep it for 3 weeks, maybe that'll be a little bit easier for you if you can do the drive. And then can these labs be used in Cincinnati? And can they be used during the summer? So if you are able to make the drive from Cincinnati to either Columbus, Dayton, or Akron, then most definitely, I would love to encourage that. And if it's like a summer camp you're doing or anything like that, and you come specifically to the Columbus location here at PASS, I can work with you and whoever is helping run summer camps or whatever you guys are doing to also extend how that reservation goes, because it is a little bit longer of a drive. But I'm very flexible. So if you guys have any specific questions, at the end, I'll give you my email, and I'll drop it in the chat right now too. And you guys can just send me some emails with questions. And I do not have a geocaching kit. I am working on one about like minerals and everything like that and geology, but I don't have anything necessarily about geocaching.
Great. Well, keep those questions coming. I think we will sort of start zooming in now in a little more detail. And thank you, Bree. I'm going to spend just a couple minutes reviewing some things that DriveOhio has done in this space of delivery robots and smart cities that has led us to now collaborate with the PASS Foundation on a new kit that we're about to describe that we're very excited about. So I'm going to start with just a little history of what we've done so far at DriveOhio, and a few of you on the call may have even collaborated with us on this, and we appreciate that. So for the past several years, we've done activities related to coding with Autobots, and I know there's plenty of types of different robots out there to work with. We're pretty agnostic. This was just the one that we happened to focus on. You can see there, these Autobots will follow a line that you draw with markers, and in just a second here, I've got a video from Kenya, again, our intern, describing how these work. So let's give that a quick listen.
Today, I'm here to present to you guys Autobots. What these things are code reading small bots, and so what they do is they read code that you draw and that you color yourself. On the bottom of them, you can see these lights here. Those are like the sensors that the Autobot has to read the codes that you code into the paper and stuff. Here's an actual replica of the Linden shuttle route that I've created. I'm gonna run this Autobot on the track now. Here we go. Okay, it's calibrated. And so what's special about the Autobots is the fact that they read black as just a stationary color. They're just gonna follow that wherever it goes. And then the important things though is the colors and the order that you put them in. Every different color combination commands the Autobot to do something different. So here is a bus stop on the Linden route. And so I colored in a code that makes the Autobot stop for 4 seconds, and then it starts going again. And different codes do different things, makes it slow down, go faster, stop, spin around even, or moonwalk. It has a couple different tricks. They're really great for young elementary school students. It's definitely a great introduction to coding. Another cool thing about it is the fact that you can really make any code that you want. There's no limitation on what you can do. Obviously, there are some parameters, but you know, if you just let kids be creative, they can create pretty much anything that they want to. It's a great practice for kids, and I definitely recommend it.
So we've had some nice experiences working with students of all ages with those platforms, those Autobots, and it starts to lead into conversations about autonomous vehicles, electric vehicles, charging, other types of things. And then we'll show in a minute how it can tie into this bigger smart city concept. So I'm going to now briefly spotlight drones, which can also be used to make deliveries. We said this was about delivery robots, right? Now, I'm not going to dwell on the drone topic today. Last week we had a whole webinar on that, and so if you want to take a deeper dive into drones and whether you were able to attend that one or not, the recording and slides are available. Don't worry if you didn't see that email yet; it hasn't been sent, but it's about to be sent. So this is where you can find the recording for those all those resources, including a portable innovation lab kit around drones and vertiports. So this is all building up to this bigger idea of how do you design a city or a school? What is the community of your future look like? And so what we've pulled together is this curriculum we call the Smart City Adventure. It's a chance for your students to become city planners for an hour or a week or a month or longer. It's however many hours of class time or after school or summertime you have available. This is a scalable, flexible piece of curriculum that's informed by what many other teachers have done in the past. And any time that we are referencing work that other teachers have done, we're very careful to share the credit as widely as possible. So in this example, this picture you see here is from Reynoldsburg. Their third grade students at Herbert Mills STEAM Elementary every year are city planners for about a month or so. And so I was actually just there a few days ago presenting to this year's third grade class, talking about all these transportation technologies. And then they use different tools to build this miniature city. What tools do they use? They start in CoSpace software to build a mock version of a city. And then they get out their cardboard and maker tools and they build that miniature version of the city that you saw with sometimes these Ozobots and other technology driving or flying through the city. If you could have a drone with a vertiport in there, you could have an Ozobot acting like a delivery robot, maybe with some 3D printed parts. So this was the genesis of this Smart City Adventure curriculum. All the planning resources are available through our toolkit, through that curriculum. And now working with the team at the PAST Foundation, we've started to build a portable innovation lab around all of this. So I want to leave plenty of time for Bree to talk about that. And so I think one of my last comments here will just be that there are different adventures you can pick. You know, I'm old enough to remember the Choose Your Own Adventure books when I was a kid. And so, you know, we've talked already here about delivery robots, package delivery, whether that's on the air, in the air, on the ground, or both. We talked about vertiports at our last webinar, talking about how drones can be part of the story. We could talk about hubs of different types of modes of mobility, EV charging, connected intersections. There's all these different learning lessons that you could apply here. And if this seems too overwhelming, then just pick one and start small. It could be an hour or it could be multiple hours. It's really up to you and the resources and time that you have available. So that sets the stage for these new portable innovation labs that Bree's about to describe for you. And with that, I will turn it over to her.
Thank you, Rich. That was perfect timing. I was trying to get back to all the comments in the chat, and that was actually perfect. So if you were here at our seminar last week, you might have gotten the gist of how our labs work and seen an example. But if not, today I'm going to go over a different one. I'm going to go over our Smart City Adventure. So I actually have a little bit of a setup behind me. I'm really used to in-person webinars and things like that because I'm very hands-on, especially with having a lab that is about material supplies and the experience. So if you come to the one in June, I'll plug for June, we will have more hands-on activities for you actually get to play with. But I just want to show you guys some of the stuff that we do have. So I'm going to go over the curriculum with you guys in a little bit. And then Rich will also be able to pull that up on the screen when we get to that point. But here are just some of the things that I'll go through in 1 second. Okay, so first, before we get to the example activity with Smart City, I just want to talk a little bit about our autonomous delivery lab. And that goes along with our Spheros. I don't know if any of you have ever worked with Sphero, RVR, or anything like that. I know they have their little bolts as well. But this is really our basis for our autonomous delivery lab that already exists. And this was already available for you to borrow from us. And this one will tie well into our Smart City Adventure. And there's actually components of this inside of the Smart City Adventure. But this is just a little robot that students can code and do different things with that. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do at Spheros, and that some of those things are inside of that lab, the Autonomous Delivery Lab, but we'll also incorporate that into the Smart City Adventure Lab. I see a hand up before I continue. If whoever has their hand up, if you want to speak, you can unmute yourself and ask a question. Oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure before we continue. Okay, Rich, could you pull up the example activity?
Yes, let me switch screens
you.
over into that for sure.
Okay, and so that's our autonomous delivery activity right here. So I'll just go through this one really quickly. If you just want to show the first activity, I won't go through the whole one of this one, but I'll go through this more. But for example, we have our Sphero food delivery challenge, and you can scroll down. And so this is basically the setup for this. And in every lab curriculum, if you scroll down a little bit more for me, it'll come with a QR code, and it's in this one as well. And that's where you'll access the rest of the materials. So we didn't want to give you guys something that was super chunky and super like a binder super full. A lot of the resources are going to be digital as well. And even with the curriculum, we do give you the copy of it digitally as well. And you can scroll down to the next slide after this one, or the page. So this is just an example of what it looks like. So our problem scenario. So every activity has their problem scenario and the challenge. And so this challenge is for students to program an EV Sphero, which is electric vehicle, to transport snacks from point A to point B autonomously. And so this one won't be the exact same one that's included in the Smart City Adventure because it'll be a little bit different to fit this content. But this is just an example of what it would look like. And you can just scroll through this one a little bit quickly. It just shows the materials and the curriculum and place for notes. And then we can go to the next one because I'll show a little bit more about the design cycle with the Smart City Adventure Challenge. Okay, perfect. So this is the Smart City Adventure Challenge. And if you scroll down, so this activity is called the Electricity Drive. And then like I was saying earlier, all of them will come with the QR code for you guys to scan to get the rest of the materials. And that'll be in the Airtable. And when we go back to the slides, I'll be able to show you just a little screenshot of what the Airtable looks like. And then you can go down. Okay, so this is example of like the problem scenario. So it's about the city is recognizing the need to reduce carbon emissions and has decided to transition to electric vehicles. However, the current infrastructure does not support the widespread use of EVs, and the council is looking for innovative ideas to integrate EV charging stations throughout the city effectively. So the challenge is students are tasked with designing a model of a smart city that includes a network of EV charging stations using Sphero RVR robots to simulate electric vehicles. So you're really getting students that real world experience. Obviously, it's very different actually, but they get to know about coding. They'll learn more about the careers that go along with it, because also part of that Airtable, there's going to be a section with the careers. So there'll be the career connection with that as well. And so there'll be the materials list, and you get the materials from us. We'll give you the materials, and this is all for free. The only materials we don't give are like things like pencil and like very simple sheets of paper, but things that you probably don't have in your classroom, that's all what we'll provide. And then it has the criteria of what you're looking for, and you can scroll down. And then there's just a spot for teacher's notes. And then, so there's a brainstorming section. So you're going to tell students the importance of electric vehicles and the challenges associated with charging infrastructure. And this one, we really want students to be forward thinkers, right? We want to create learner-centered students. So we want them to come up with their brainstorming questions. A lot of times we'll give them brainstorming questions, but one of the biggest things is trying to get them to think about what they don't know and the things that they would like to know so that they can be great problem solvers. So in design, this phase, the students will sketch their city layout. They don't just have to use the space given, which in a little bit I'll show you the student workbook, but they don't have to just use that space given. They can go on to bigger paper, more space, whatever they need to complete their design. And we can scroll down. And this is just more space for you teachers to have notes. And so then we get into the students doing their build, their test, their evaluation, and their modifications. So this is really where they're going to also test whatever they created. So they're actually going to use the RBR scripts. They're going to have to do the coding. They're going to have to make sure it lines up, and it has to be autonomously, because there is a free drive option with Sphero. But we want them to be able to code the robot to actually go to the stops. If there's a spot they're supposed to go to, if they have to go to the charging station, if they have to next go to the store, whatever they designed in their city, they need it to be able to be coded. So that's one of the fun of this activity. And along with that Airtable that you get, there's lots of resources to actually tell you how to go over using Sphero. So if you have no experience using Sphero, please don't feel stressed like, oh my gosh, I can't do this lab. We have plenty of resources in the Airtable whenever you get the lab that you'll have access to, such as like a PowerPoint that goes over the basics of using block coding with Sphero. And then I think if you scroll down to the edge of this page, that's pretty much it. So then the share out, that's something that's really important to allow students to know that their work is very valued and what they're creating is something real. And it allows them to have a little more excitement for whatever they're creating. So they'll usually put more of their all into it when they know it's going to be a share out at the end of it. Okay. And then you could go to the student workbook actually. Yeah, thank you. So we actually just got this. This is our new iteration of our student innovation workbook. So you can just scroll through this. We have a page to go over what the design cycle is for students. So students aren't just like, okay, brainstorm, I get that, but what about the rest of it? Why it's important to have those things. And so this workbook, this is just the generic copy, but each workbook with each lab will have all of the information that your educator guide curriculum has. It'll just be in the POV of the student. So when you go down to brainstorm, it'll have the brainstorming section for the student. So you can just scroll through this a little quickly. There's not much to really see in this one because all the content's mainly in the educator version right now, but this is what you'll get also digitally. And if you want to print this off for your students, you can print this off for your students. If you want them to have it digitally, that's also something that you can do with them as well. So it'll just go through all the stages of the design cycle. Okay, and then you can show the flyer. I'm doing things a little bit out of order this time, but just so we can go through all the things, so you don't have to do a bunch of switching back and forth. So this is our flyer for the Smart City Adventure Lab. It just gives you the description, and then it gives you a sneak peek of inside of the lab. So this is actually really exciting. I'll talk about a little bit more when we go back to the slides, but you'll see how it says like there's virtual adventures and future living. So those are some of the things that will go along with some of the lab extensions that we're actually creating. When Rich and I were putting together this lab, me and him are both ideas people. If you know Rich, especially, you know he's an ideas man. So me and him were just in the room just like for an hour straight, like, what if we do this? What if we do this? What if we do this? And it spun us into, well, there has to be several lab extensions with this one to make this curriculum even more impactful. So if you go back to the slide.
It was hard to narrow it down, but we had to start somewhere, right?
Yes, we did. That was our biggest thing, is that we were like, okay, these are all great ideas, but we have to start somewhere. That was what we kept saying to each other. But before I get to the extension kits, I'm going to talk a little bit about more about the Smart City Adventures. So it is K through 12, and the reason why it's such a big range is because of all the extension labs that are going to be a part of it as well. So where there's going to be things from Ozobots, the Spheres. Ozobots are obviously a little bit easier to use with your younger kids, so that's also why we want that to be there. And the Spheres can be used with your older kids as well. And then transdisciplinary activity. So this will span multiple different subjects. So this isn't just, okay, science. It's going to go into a bunch of different things. And we're going to talk about career exploration. So there'll be a section about careers and what your students can do in the future. And then those electricity drive and the autonomous delivery, those are just some examples of activities that are inside. And then we can go to the next slide. We talked about the student innovation workbook, so we can go to the next one. And then this is just showing you guys the labels. So if you look here, all of our labs come with their own very specific label and their own icons, and it matches with the curriculum binders and everything that comes with it. So it's all very homogeneous, and you'll understand whatever lab you have, it'll have all the same things. We can go to the next slide. Okay, so this is the exciting part, the upcoming extensions. So we're gonna have an AR, VR, so augmented reality, virtual reality extension added. So we actually recently started using these class VR headsets. They're very cool. There's lots of cool stuff that you could do with it. Actually, CoSpace is one of the things that will be a part of using these headsets, which Rich talked about earlier, CoSpace. That'll be a part of using these headsets as well. So there'll be a part of the lab extension that'll go over AR, VR. We have alternative energy. So we already have an alternative energy lab, but some of those components of that lab, Rich and I realized that can pull into this one and complement it so well. So it's going to be another extension as well. And then our microcontroller robotics, so working with like Arduino and other things like that. So one of the activities I have already with our microcontroller robotics lab is creating a stoplight for your city. That is just perfectly tied in. So creating a stoplight for your city that's automatic when something pulls up and waits a few seconds. So that's something that will also be tied into this. It'll be altered a little bit, but that's some of the extensions that will be happening.
But wait, there's more. We've got even other pieces of curriculum that the University of Cincinnati just developed that can plug in here as well. We are close to publishing that to our website. You mentioned stoplights and connected traffic signals. We've got, so this is definitely a multi-year platform. So just keep tuning in for more updates, and we'll get you started with what you're hearing about today as a way to get rolling.
Yeah, so this is definitely Rich and I were like, oh, we have so many ideas. So this is not a one-stop, here's a lab. This is a continuous thing that's going to continue to update. We might have more ideas tomorrow, knowing us. So just stay tuned for whatever we have coming out as well. And then, so this is just a screenshot of the Airtable. Like I was telling you guys, there's no login required, nothing like that. If you scan the QR code, you can pull it up on your laptop, your phone, whatever, and you can view content within there so that you don't have to have a very big bulky binder. A lot of videos and different things like that are also in the Airtable to help you go through the lesson. And then the next slide. And then, so yeah, we talked about the design cycle already when we were going through the curriculum, but we definitely think about the design cycle whenever we're developing curriculum. And then if you're interested in finding out more, you can scan this QR code to get to the website. And we'll also have the website linked inside of the slides for you and everything like that. So when it gets sent out, if you don't want to scan this right now, you'll get it whenever the slides get sent out.
Wonderful. Thank you, Bree. I know we're getting close to our scheduled hour, and I want to make sure I know we've been answering questions as we go. We've got a few more sort of forward-looking slides that we can walk through in the last couple of minutes. But again, if anybody has any questions, feel free to raise your hand, throw them in the chat. Glad to answer anything on your mind as we get towards the end of our scheduled time today. Thinking ahead to the future. There is a competition called Future City. Some of you out there may have heard of this or even participated in it. I was fortunate enough to be able to present to the statewide audience at this year's competition, which was just incredible. And it ties right into what we're talking about here. So, often we find that rather than having a piece of curriculum or an activity feel like one more thing, if your school is already doing this or inclined to do this Future City competition, everything we've just talked about should blend right in with that. So just like you've got also FIRST Robotics out there, I mean, that is another extension of all of this, right? So we realize there's a lot of things already in motion. We're just trying to offer up some tools with context that can plug into those other competitions, which are obviously really rich experiences for students to have. And as we talk about our youngest learners, this is something I was chatting with my daughter yesterday. She's 9. She wants to be a teacher when she grows up. We talk about these things a lot. And, we were talking about, well, how do you take an idea of a smart city and make it resonate in a K-2 or K-3 classroom? And one thought is, well, a school is very relatable. So what if you just said, design the perfect school? And that reminded me of this is one of her favorite books, If I Built a School. So maybe you grab the book as the way to introduce the activity, and then you bring in a simple activity that says it's the Smart School Challenge instead of the Smart City Challenge, if building the whole city is too much or maybe too big of a concept that early. And not discouraging anyone from encouraging our youngest learners. I mean, we've seen the 3rd graders building a full city, just a twist on the idea if that's something to think about. So we've alluded to it. We've got other PD coming up. Our next, we're going to have our first in-person workshop June 5th. And we've still got a few spots open. So if you're in the audience and interested, feel free to sign up. We've got a head count of 35 limit for that. We're not there yet. Once we hit the limit, we'll just take a wait list, and we'll be having more PD in the future. So this is not the last one ever. It's just the next one on the calendar. So feel free to check that out if you're interested, or share that with others who you think might be interested. We would appreciate that. And you can find us on social media. Here's where DriveOhio can be found, not just on Instagram, but many different platforms. But on Instagram, we're trying to put out more bite-sized videos for students and teachers to interact with on this topic of careers and Ask an Expert. And we've got the Career Connects platform that we're trying to pull together for all this. So lots to think about. I know we're close to the end of this webinar, but would be glad to answer any questions that are still out there. I see I appreciate all the comments that have come in through the chat. I see some great comments here from Lisa Marie about some other good elementary books. If I Built a Car, that's a great ad there. And for those that are unable to see the chat on the recording, I might just kind of, see if I can either comment on those now, or we'll probably throw a supplemental slide in the final version that goes out that maybe summarizes some of the Q&A. So maybe we'll handle it that way. But glad to stick around for a few extra minutes for anybody who does have questions still. But we appreciate everyone tuning in today at the end of what's probably another busy testing week for many teachers. It's just a busy time of the year regardless. But we appreciate everything that you do. And we hopefully say that often enough, but thank you for being here, and thanks for the work that you do. Appreciate everybody tuning in. I'm not sure if we have any more questions at this point, but we'll probably get ready to wrap things up. But stay tuned. And I do see, did I see a hand up? Maybe not.
I think it was a clap.
Okay.
Maybe a hand up, actually.
Yeah, and at this point, if you want to, yeah.
Yeah, no, well, I tried to raise my hand, but for some reason it wasn't working. But this is Brother Abdeen from Black Boys in Tech out in Cincinnati, Ohio. We conversed over email, you and I, Rich, but we didn't get a chance to meet up just yet. So I hopped on this call to find out what was going on. So my question is, since there are certain hubs, and of course you can't have a distribution hub that meets everybody's needs. Somebody's going to have to drive. But I'm wondering, is there an opportunity, given a lot of the development and work that's happening in Cincinnati, is there an opportunity to create a distribution hub in Cincinnati? What might this work look like if we expand it? Have these conversations already happened? And I know you talked to Sean Kelly at a time. He's over Greater Cincinnati STEM Collaborative, and BBIT is kind of under that network. But nevertheless, just wondering, has that been considered? And if not, I'd love to be a part of that rollout if possible.
Yeah, so on my end, we have had talks about expanding further across Ohio. We honestly started this project not even fully a year ago. So our expansion already was like kind of fast, I guess, because some, organizations, when they start a new project, they're like, let's wait a full year before we expand out to other locations. But thankfully, because of the connection, because this is funded by Battelle, the connection between Battelle and the OSLN hubs, it was easy for us to be able to have our distribution for other areas be out of the OSLN hubs right now. But we do have talks of expanding further around Ohio. We'd love to be at every corner, every crevice, everywhere in Ohio, and that is our plan. But yeah, if you want to take down my email, and if you want to reach out with any other questions or any information you have that can also help with that project, when the time comes, I'd love to share more information with you too.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. And just as a quick follow-up, so I will also email you about the summer We have some opportunities that potentially use some of the curriculum within our summer camps. We serve first grade all the way through ninth grade, at least for this summer.
Okay, perfect.
But our pathway with Black Boys in Tech is first through 12th. So we like to use the hashtag first grade to first career. And we're very excited to provide those opportunities and looking at DriveOhio as a potential way that students could get exposed to these careers. So either way, little introduction, but I will be following up via email.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. Thank you.
Hey, this is Mary. I'm based here in Cincinnati, and I just wanted to relay that we're going to be doing a lot of these programs at the Girls in STEM. So if you want to pop in then, just to sort of see them in person with some, I think there might be a little bit of PD too with educators. So you might want to see them in person since these programs are being deployed with their STEM collaborative and here at PI and at Aiken New Tech, since we're a 21st century partner. So we are engaged since we led the Smart Mobility program for the past 2 years with DriveOhio. So.
And where'd you say that's going to take place? I'm sorry.
At UC, University of Cincinnati, right where Sean Kelly is.
Oh yeah, well, we're all in the same places. I literally have a desk right next to Sean. So
Yeah, so it's going to be the 30th. I think it's going to be 30th of April. So only in a week. So, I'm sure he'll just give you, you don't even need a ticket. You just pop in since you're there at UC already. I think it's from 9 to 3. It's just the Girls in STEM program. It's been going on since.
Yeah, no, I actually, now that you mention it, I did hear about it. So I will pop over and check it out.
Yeah, totally cool. All right. Just wanted to give you that.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Mary. And yeah, I mean, I'll just add, we are always appreciative of all these opportunities to collaborate. And while, bear with us while some of these programs continue to scale and grow, sometimes a little extra funding never hurts, right? So we've talked about ways to go after things like 21st Century Community Learning Center grants, Martha Holden Jennings Foundation grants. I know Mary and others, folks from like the Ohio After School Network have shared some great resources. We do our best to list all of that in the grants and funding section of our website. So while money is not always the answer, it never hurts. So we're always trying to think of ways to place more of this equipment either directly in schools or at these regional hubs. So bear with us while we keep growing, but we're definitely doing our best to keep scaling this. And you may end up finding that some other corners of your community have some of these resources already. I know David's on here today, and he's been making some wonderful connections with some of the libraries up in Northeast Ohio with us. So lots of opportunity, and glad to take any of these discussions into follow-up calls as well. So I'll make sure that both of our emails are up there on the screen, and you can schedule a DriveOhio. We're glad to host quick planning sessions anytime, 30 minutes or more if needed, but just talk through any of this as well, besides this great discussion here today. So with that, I know we've gone a few minutes over. Appreciate everybody sticking with us. And I think we're probably going to wrap it up. I don't see any other hands up at the moment. So hopefully I got all the questions answered. We'll get all these resources out to you. Give us about a week or so, and watch for that email, and you'll get more information. It'll all be published on our website. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Bree, thanks as always for being a great partner here, and we appreciate everybody's time today.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everybody.